So let's go ahead and get started. Again, welcome everybody to the Paladin webinar series, Biz Coach. These are informative webinars to kind of fill you in on some of the new features that we're coming out with, show you how different ways that we do things in Paladin, and just give you instructions to help you better utilize the Paladin system. My name again is Charles Owen. I've been around for about 8 years now with Paladin. I manage business alliances for the company. And today's webinar is not a very catchy title. It's F4 Discount Item Button Essentials. What does that mean? Well, we'll go over this. Oftentimes, when we discount items, we either use sales, pricing plans, or we just go in and physically change the price. But there is a method, a way that you'll see on the invoice and quote screen where you can set a percentage discount not only for particular items or a group of items, but for the entire invoice. And there's been some additional enhancements to this, and that's the reason we're doing the seminar or the webinar today. I am not being assisted by anybody today. We've got a number of people out sick, and then Chad is out traveling, so I will be looking for your questions. And I apologize if I don't get to your question right away, but if you text me a question, I will see it. At very minimum, at the very end, we can go over those questions. And I don't have a problem unmuting you all if you don't mind as well. And we can just open it up for general discussion. So let me start the presentation now. So the first slide is an agenda slide. So I'm going to talk about the different ways that you can give discounts, the invoice discount types, new discount item F4 feature, which I mentioned, and then we'll go right into a Paladin point of sale demonstration. It's very short. This is not going to be a long webinar today, but there's a few things that we'll cover that should hopefully enlighten you as to the feature that's going to be coming out in this very next update being rolled out as we speak. So the different ways you can give discounts in Paladin: one-time invoice or item discount. So that's when you're in the invoice and quote screen. Also, you can do sales by department, class, subclass, or supplier. Notice I have subclass in there. That is a new feature that has been added recently. I doubt that it's been rolled out unless you have the latest update, but that has been added. So you can do sales and trade discounts and that sort of thing across the board or for various different classifications of items. B2B customer trade discounts, all right, same deal. It's the same as sales, but you apply it only to individuals and or companies as opposed to carte blanche to an entire department, class, or subclass, or supplier. Customer loyalty discounts as well. So you can identify folks. If you're using our integrated rich rewards system, you have a checkbox in there where you can enable only discounts for those customers on certain sales. Kind of cool. And then some of the other loyalty programs that we support out there, like ACE rewards and such, there are also custom discounts for those loyalty programs as well. Promotions based on a limited time. Also BOGO and BOGA sales. Yes, we can do those. Is it unlocked for the end user? Not yet, but we are getting to that point. We are building a wizard on top of that because it is sort of complex to set up. So at this point, if you want to engage in BOGO or BOGA sales, please contact customer support. We have a number of different people who are well-versed on that, setting that up for you. And then instant savings. So those are the different types of discounts you can give our system. Why am I going over this? I'm just kind of going over a review for you just to identify some of the other ways that you can do discounts in Paladin. What we're going to be talking about today specifically are invoice discount types. That is, when you're in the invoice and quote screen, when you're adding those items to that screen, what kind of protection do you have? What kind of discounts do you have to your availability? All right, so change an item price at checkout. We all know we can do that. You just go in, you change the price. And when you do change the price, if you have the system set up in this fashion, it can prompt for a manager's signature, or not a signature, but a sign-off. And in addition to that, you can make it check for minimum margin. Now, previously in the system, minimum margin's been set across the board. So you say, I don't want to go minimum margin below 30% across the board. So when you add an item, you physically type in a change of that price. It's going to prompt you, telling you that that's below the minimum margin if you try to go below the minimum margin. Now, if you don't go below the minimum margin, it may not say anything. It may just let you continue on. So we try to make this quick and easy and straightforward and not interruptive. All right, so the next area here is you can apply a % discount on an item, and that's using the F4 key that we're going to be talking about today. And then you can apply discount not only to an item or a number of items, but to the entire invoice. And that's what we're going to be showing today. The new discount item F4 feature, it now respects minimum margin. Before it didn't. Now, the cool thing about this is that minimum margin, as I was mentioning in the previous slide, it's normally a number you set for your entire inventory. Well, now you can set it per department. So your lumber items, your building materials, your paint, your other items where you might have varied acceptable minimum margins, you can now set that up per department. Now, if you just wanted across the board, you can have that as well. You can have one or the other or both. You can have some items or some departments set at minimum departments margins, and then you can, for the rest of them, you can just have as one minimum margin across the board. Also, it lets you discount dump SKUs now, manually priced items like fasteners that you might sell. If you have an item where you physically put in the price at point of sale because it's I call them dump SKUs, you can now include that in your discounting. So when you type in a price for a dump SKU, it's going to lock that price in and say, okay, 2 at $5, for example. Now the set fee is $5. You want to discount that, you go into F4, you can now discount that. So that can be included across the board in your invoice when you're doing discounts. This is a phenomenal change in our system. All right, so I'm going to get right into the demonstration and show you how this works. Before I do, I wanted to mention you can learn more about this in Knowledge Base. There's a couple of different areas that you might want to search for. One is discounting items at checkout. That talks specifically about the F4 feature. And about pricing plans and sale lists. That is more specific information in setting up trade discounts and pricing plans and sale lists and that sort of things. Also, under the webinars, if you go to Paladin pointofsale spelled out .com/webinars, you'll find about 6 up from the bottom one. It was the sixth webinar we ever did called Automating Sales, Promotions, and Trade Discounts. That's also very informative. All right, so let me bring up the application here. First thing I want to do is go into File Setup. So under File Setup, in the new update, before the invoice information or all the invoice tweaks and dials and switches used to be under Company. So if you went under Company, on the left-hand side here, you would see Invoice. Well, we've broken that out into its own individual Store Invoice tab. So now you have a separate Invoice tab, or you will with this new update. And on the very bottom, there's 2 checkboxes that say Invoice F4. One says Discount Respects Minimum Margin. That's what we talked about. And the second one is Discounts Applied to Manually Priced Items. So if you check these, if you want to participate in this, you can check these, but you can also uncheck them at invoicing. And vice versa. If you don't check them here, you can actually check them at invoicing, I think. Let me check. I haven't tried that one yet. So let's go ahead and look at an example here. So I'll go ahead and type an item, my favorite item. I'll type in another item. In this case, it's just a lumber item. So I've got 2 items on my screen. I'm going to add now at this point another one, F for bulk fasteners, and I'm going to type in a price. I'm going to say I have one at $2. Okay. So at this point, I've not made any price changes. I don't have anything on sale. Everything's coming at list price. But if I wish, I can highlight either one, or by holding down the Shift key, I can go in and add any other items. So I can either, if I hold the Shift, I can actually click on the top and then the bottom highlights everything, or I can hold the Control key and go one by one. So I'm pressing down either the Shift or the Control. Shift highlights everything from the top to bottom. Control does one by one. So you can selectively go through and highlight the items. The reason I'm doing this is because now I'm going to go through and I'm going to execute on my F4 key. The F4 key prompts me with, hey, do you want to put a custom discount or lock in a 10, 20, 15%, whatever you might want to discount. Also notice it says it is respecting minimum margin, and it's going to apply these to manually priced items. So if I said, now before if I said 99% discount, I just want to charge them 1%, it would have given a 99% discount. But in this case, if I go 99% and I hit finish, it's only going to go down to the minimum margin set for either across the board for your entire inventory or for individual departments. In this case, I have different ones set. All right, so let the bulk fasteners go way down. It let everything else just go down to what the minimum I had. So obviously, there is no setting under the bulk fasteners. But if I go in and I say, well, that's too much, I can go back, highlight those items, go back into F4. Now I can say, well, just give me a 20%. And what it's going to do is it's going to remember what the original price was and just set that across the board again. So it lets you kind of play with it a little bit to see if you want to negotiate prices, but still maintain a margin so that you're not losing money. Now you can also go into and look at the profit analyst. I don't know if all of you or any of you have seen this particular feature, but this was rolled out a couple of updates ago. Profit analyst must be turned on under the employee tab. It shows you for your current line and for your total invoice what the overall effective margin is for that particular invoice, and then as you're on a particular item, showing you the cost, profit, and margin per item. Again, very effective feature here, identifying, making sure that you're still profitable when you're building quotes and that sort of thing for your customers. Okay, that is it for the feature, really. I mean, there's not a whole lot else to talk about, but I do want to throw in a bonus here. We added a feature recently for all you lumber and building material folks out there that enables 1,000 board foot pricing, and it does the calculation based on the dimensions of the wood. We also support order multiples, 1,000 square foot and ton as well. So a lot of different things have been added here, and we go out multiple decimal points for this to get very specific for the LBM market as well as the feed and seed market as well. So I just wanted to mention that. This incorporates, if you go in and fill this 1,000 board foot pricing in, what it will do is it will prompt you for the dimensions, and at that point, when you receive an item via the PO, and it's set up for 1,000 board foot, you're going to receive it per 1,000 board foot pricing. So I just wanted to mention that, just a little bonus. But again, this webinar was all about the F4 feature. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in now. I'm more than happy to answer them. I don't see any questions at this point. But I mentioned it's going to be a short presentation about the F4. And stay tuned for next week. I'm not sure what the presentation is for next week, but I'm sure it will be fun and exciting. More than likely, in either next week or the week after, we're going to be doing a webinar on all the new features in Paladin as of this latest release. We've got well over 20 significant features that have been added to Paladin, and I've shown you some of them here, and you will see those in the webinar to come. All right, I still don't see any questions. So I am going to sign off now, unless anybody wants to raise their hand or has any questions. I think we're good to go. All right, guys. I'm going to sign off. Thank you very much. Again, you can see a recording of this broadcast at paladinpointofsale.com/webinars. Thank you very much for attending. Appreciate it. And we'll see you all next time.